Picture this. You pull up to the stoplight and a plain-looking luxury sedan pulls up next to you. Dark paint, 4 doors, clean but completely unremarkable. You figure it's a businessman heading home after a long day. Then the light turns green and that sedan absolutely disappears. Twin turbos spooling, an inline-6 wailing, and you're left sitting there wondering what on earth just happened. That was the Toyota Aristo, and chances are you've never heard of it. The Aristo has one of the most interesting origin stories in JDM history. On the surface, it was Toyota's high-performance luxury sedan for the Japanese domestic market. Their answer to the Mercedes E-Class or the BMW 5 Series. Comfortable, refined, well-built. The kind of car a Japanese executive would be chauffeured around in. But underneath that composed exterior, Toyota had quietly dropped in one of the most capable powertrains they'd ever built. And that combination, boardroom exterior, racetrack heart, is exactly what makes the Aristo one of the most slept-on performance cars of the entire 1990s and early 2000s. Toyota introduced the first generation Aristo, known internally as the S140, back in 1991. It came with a 3.0-liter twin-turbocharged inline-6, the 2JZ GTE, producing around 280 horsepower on paper. That number wasn't a coincidence. In the early 1990s, Japan's major automakers had a voluntary gentleman's agreement to cap their advertised output at 280 horsepower. In reality, most enthusiasts will tell you the Aristo was making considerably more than that from the factory. Toyota just wasn't advertising it. But it's the second generation, the S160, launched in 1997, that really turned the Aristo into a legend. This is where Toyota stopped being polite about it. The S160 came with the same legendary 2JZ GTE engine that powered the Toyota Supra. Sequential twin turbos, forged internals, and a block so strong it became the foundation for some of the most insane builds in all of motorsport. In the Aristo, it ran through an automatic transmission exclusively, with a slightly different ECU calibration than the Supra, but the heart was the same. And what a heart it was. The 2JZ GTE wasn't just strong, it was embarrassingly strong, with an engine block that could handle 2, 3, even 4 times its stock power output, with the right supporting modifications. And this is where the Aristo becomes genuinely exciting. Because here is a full-size luxury sedan. 4 doors, leather seats, automatic climate control, wood trim, sitting on top of one of the most tunable platforms in automotive history. It was like Toyota accidentally built a weapon and then dressed it in a business suit. Now let's talk numbers. Because the Aristo's stock performance was already impressive for its time, the S160 with the 2JZ GTE could hit 0 to 60 in around 5.5 seconds, with a factory speed limiter set at 180 kilometers per hour or about 112 miles per hour. Standard practice for Japanese market cars of the era. Remove that limiter and the Aristo's real potential started showing. Quarter-mile times came in around 13.5 to 13.8 seconds stock, which put it firmly in sports car territory despite the 4-door luxury suit it was wearing. How did that stack up against the competition? A stock Mercedes E420 of the same era was pulling around 6 seconds to 60. The BMW 540i was roughly in the same ballpark as the Aristo, both hovering around that 5.5 second mark. So this wasn't a car that was embarrassing the Germans in a straight line every single time, but it was matching them stride for stride at a fraction of the drama, and with none of the badge snobbery. And in a car that looked like your dentist's company vehicle, that counted for a lot. If you're enjoying this deep dive into one of the most underrated JDM sleepers ever built, hit that like button and subscribe. There are plenty more forgotten legends coming your way. The Aristo also came with a surprisingly well-sorted chassis. Toyota gave it double wishbone suspension up front and a multi-link setup at the rear. The kind of geometry you'd expect on a proper driver's car, not a luxury barge. Combined with a rear-wheel drive layout, the Aristo had genuine handling credibility on top of its straight-line performance. It wasn't trying to be a sports car, but it could embarrass plenty of them through a set of corners. Inside, the Aristo was pure Japanese luxury of the late 1990s. Premium leather, multi-zone climate control, an advanced navigation system for the era, and acoustically insulated glass to keep road noise out. The seats were wide, plush, and deeply comfortable. The dashboard was clean and logically laid out in the way Toyota has always excelled at. It looked and felt like an expensive car. The Aristo wore a price tag that put it firmly in European luxury sedan territory. The driving experience can be summarized like this: serene and then savage. Around town, the twin turbos stay quiet, the ride is cushy, and nothing about the car suggests it wants to be pushed. But get on a highway on-ramp, put your foot down past a certain point and both turbos light up, and the car just lunges forward in a way that catches you completely off guard every single time. That surge of mid-range torque paired with the sound of a 2JZ under load is something that, once you experience, you never really forget. It's a uniquely Jekyll-and-Hyde character that the Aristo pulled off better than almost any sedan of its generation. Now, no car is perfect, and the Aristo has its share of weaknesses worth knowing about. First, because it was a Japanese domestic market vehicle, finding one outside of Japan requires importing, which adds cost and complexity. The S160 was automatic only from the factory. No manual option ever existed. If you want a third pedal, that's a full aftermarket swap, which is doable, but adds significant cost and complexity to an already involved import process. You'll also want to make sure the electronics have been properly sorted, because aging JDM sensors and wiring can become a headache if the car hasn't been carefully maintained. Parts availability has improved significantly with the growth of the JDM import market, but it still requires more effort than sourcing components for a Supra or a Skyline. Age-related corrosion is another thing to watch for. These cars are now 25 to 30 years old, and like any vehicle of that vintage, examples that have been stored poorly or exposed to harsh environments will show it. A proper pre-purchase inspection is non-negotiable. That said, a well-maintained Aristo is genuinely robust. The 2JZ GTE is not a fragile engine, and the rest of the mechanicals are typically Toyota reliable when properly cared for. Here's where the Aristo's story gets really interesting for anyone watching today. Because of its JDM status and relative obscurity compared to the Supra, the Aristo has historically been drastically underpriced for what it is. Today, as the JDM import market heats up and more enthusiasts connect the dots between the Aristo and the 2JZ, prices have climbed, but you can still find solid examples in the $15,000 to $25,000 range. For a 2JZ powered rear-wheel drive, full luxury sedan with genuine collector credibility, that remains an extraordinary value. And the tuning potential is where things go completely off the rails in the best possible way. The 2JZ GTE responds to modification the same way it does in the Supra, which is to say, enthusiastically and dramatically. A basic ECU tune and boost increase can push output well past 350 horsepower without touching the internals. A single turbo conversion with proper fueling and supporting bolt-ons and 500 horsepower becomes a realistic daily driver number. Go full built motor territory, and the sky is genuinely the limit. 1,000 horsepower builds exist on the same basic block, though at that point, you're well beyond the stock twin turbo setup in a car that looks, from the outside, like something your accountant would drive to a client meeting. That aftermarket potential, combined with the car's sleeper aesthetics, is exactly why the Aristo has developed a passionate cult following. In Japan, it was a staple of the VIP car scene. Slammed on air suspension, massive wheels, blacked out trim. And that style has spread globally as import culture has grown. But equally, plenty of owners just run them as fast, comfortable daily drivers that occasionally embarrass far more exotic machinery at the traffic light. So, what is the Aristo's legacy? It's a car that proved Toyota was never just playing it safe. While the Supra was the public face of Toyota performance in the 1990s, the Aristo was doing the same job in complete anonymity, hiding behind a luxury sedan body and quietly keeping pace with European performance cars that cost significantly more. It represented a very specific kind of Japanese engineering philosophy: overbuild everything, make it look effortless, and never brag about it. The Aristo didn't need a racing stripe or a spoiler. It just needed that 2JZ under the hood and the road ahead of it. As the JDM market matures and enthusiasts continue searching for the next underappreciated legend before prices climb further, the Aristo is sitting right there. Still undervalued, still underappreciated, and still more than capable of making a fool out of cars that cost 3 times as much. If you know, you know. And now you know. So, is the Toyota Aristo the greatest sleeper sedan ever built? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the JDM cars that history forgot but deserve way better, hit subscribe. The next one is already coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss it.